Hello, this is Science for Cycle 3, Week 11, and today we'll be talking about the skeleton and the muscles. This is going to be kind of a high-level overview. We're not going to get into a lot of the anatomy of what's going on in the cells in those organs. If you have extra books or resources that you want to bring for maybe an older class and teach them a little bit more about what goes on inside, feel free to do that. But you can start, as always, with our Bible verse at the top of the page and talk through that a little bit, and then you'll go into talking about the skeletal system. And I won't read through the lesson plan in detail. You're basically asking the class to touch different parts of their body where they can feel their bones, and then just sharing some facts and information about those bones, like how many bones are in our hands, how our skull, kind of what its purpose is, and how it fuses together as we grow, things like that. And then you'll talk a little bit about joints, which is where our bones come together. So there are a few different types of joints in our body. We're going to talk about two of the main ones. And the first one is a hinge joint, which is just what it sounds like. It's going to be joints like our elbows and our knees that can bend in one direction but cannot bend in the other direction. So this is going to be your example of a hinge joint. Super simple. It's just two pieces of cardboard that are taped together. And you can show your class how it'll bend in one direction, but it won't bend in the other direction. Now, if they pull hard enough at the tape, they can make it bend, but that's not the point. That would be wrecking our bodies and our tendons. So you can show them how it'll bend in one direction and not the other, just like our elbows and our knees. I will send along enough pieces, since it's super simple. If you want to have your class put these together, just stick a piece of tape on your two pieces of cardboard and create their own hinge joints. You can feel free to do that or not, whatever you feel like you have time for, but I'll send that along in case you have time for it. The other joint that we're going to touch on is a ball and socket joint, which is really fascinating. So these are joints like your shoulder here or your hips, joints where you have a little bit more range of motion. And so here's your model ball and socket joint. So we've got this ball basically inside here and then a socket on the outside. And so the bones come together in this way where there's kind of a cup form, and that gives us more of a range of motion. So unlike the hinge joint that can only move in one direction, our ball and socket joint allows for more range of motion, like our arms that can do these big windmills, or our hips that can move around in lots of different directions. So those are the two joints that you'll talk about. And then you'll talk about the muscles. And first you can kind of talk about, you'll talk about skeletal muscles and how those work, but you'll talk about how muscles contract a little bit. Again, we won't get into like the more detailed anatomy, but basically when muscles are contracting, the cells are actually coming together more and becoming kind of wider, and so that's what makes for that wider feeling of your muscle when it contracts. So it gets kind of tighter, those cells push together. And so as an example, you'll have this. So this is basically a model of your arm. So you can picture your arm laying flat like this, and then I'm going to blow up the balloon, which is going to simulate your bicep muscle contracting, which is what's required for you to lift your arm up like this. We don't think it takes a lot of muscle, but it is requiring your muscle to contract when that happens. So what you'll do is you'll blow up this balloon, and then you'll see that the arm will come up. Hang on. All right, and it swings around a little bit like that. So unfortunately, I don't have enough for all the kids to try that out, because I don't want everyone's mouth touching all of those tubes, and they're a little bit tricky to blow up. So it'll just be something where you can demonstrate as a model, but you can see where the balloon again is our muscle, and so when that balloon gets bigger, similar to our muscle contracting, those cells getting squished closer together as they contract, then that allows for our arm to come up like this. So the big message is that muscles really work in conjunction with our bones and tendons to make movements happen. We need both our skeletal system and our muscular system in order to make any movements happen. So then you'll talk, again, kind of high level about different muscles in our musculoskeletal system and how they work together. So I won't go into each of those. And then you'll touch just briefly on smooth muscles. Those are muscles that work without us even having to think of what they're doing. So those are things like your stomach, which is always helping to move and break down food and move food through. The lining of your blood vessels can dilate and contract based on what your body needs. If you're exercising a lot, it might contract to help speed up the flow of that blood so oxygen can get more quickly. Different medications can work to open up and close those muscles a little bit. Lots of places in our bodies that we have smooth muscles. Our eyes contracting, those tiny muscles in our eyes help to dilate our eyes or contract the pupils in response to light. So there's lots of areas that we don't even have to think about what's going on, and our smooth muscles are taking care of those actions. And then the big one to also mention is your heart, which is a different kind of muscle. It is a smooth muscle, but it's a special muscle called cardiac muscle, which looks a little bit different in structure if you get down to the cellular anatomy of it. But that heart, you can remind them, has to be beating all the time, and we don't even have to think about it. And that muscle, it responds to a lot of different factors in our body. We talked about hormones and other messengers already a few weeks ago. So that those heart muscles are also responding to a lot of those messages in your body to control how fast it beats and things like that. So the basic message is it all has to work together really well, and God designed our bodies in an amazing way so that we don't even have to think about a lot of the things that are going on. We don't have to think, oh, I need to contract this muscle and relax this muscle for my arm to go up. That just, our bodies can do that because that's how God designed our brains and our bodies to work. And then you will have a few things to color. You have, let's see, 3 pieces of muscle body parts to color that look like this, and then you will have 3 pieces of bone body parts to color that look like this, but luckily the bones just need to stay white. So I will send along white crayons, but you can also choose just to leave them white and avoid some work. And then you can just review again how God made our body and our musculoskeletal system in an amazing way, and that's about it. Thank you.